Glad you could join us. Now, in our first story, a Defector Bridge in Tanoso in Ashanti region has cut 3 communities off from the rest of the municipality amid fears of a disaster waiting to happen. Residents of Tanoso, Apatrapa and Apokukrom say the structure has become a death trap after portions have been washed away by flash floods. Though work is set to begin on rehabilitation of the road, residents and other road users will have to wait for another 18 months to get over their plight if it is completed on schedule. Now, the development leaves a narrow stretch which cannot contain more than 1 vehicle at a time. Nana Senso-Mensah has more in this report.
A narrow stretch of the bridge left by floodwater hardly can contain more than 1 vehicle passing at any moment. There were some works on the Apatrapa-Apokukrom Road in 2007, but the project was abandoned after the drains were done.
What you see behind me here looks like a bridge, but hey, it's a death trap.
This bridge is the only link for residents and other road users who move in and out of these communities from the main Abuakwa-Sofuline highway.
This route connects to the main routes, and you have to struggle. Even if you don't get a taxi, you have to struggle to get to the bus stop for you to get to town or get to your destination or something. And you know, it's very, very dusty, as you can see, very, very dusty. And when it rains too, it's very deplorable. And we have a bridge just over there, and it's being degraded and it's being broken down. So I'm hoping they could fix that bridge.
When it rains, we cannot use the road. The nature of the road always spoils our cars. I will need to take my car to the workshop tomorrow. We are pleading on government to fix the road.
With yet another short curtain for resumption of work on the 5.5-kilometer stretch, residents of affected communities can be hopeful. They will, however, have to live with their fears for another 1.5 years to see an end to their plight. Dr. Samiu Kojonyama is Member of Parliament for Kwadaso.
In all, we are doing about 1.2 Tanaso. We are doing 2 kilometers of more in Asuyabua. We are doing another one in Kwadaso. So it's about 5.4 kilometers in total. That is the project that has been given to us for now. But there's so many in the pipeline that is coming. So it's a holistic kind of project that we've managed to bring it down to the constituents. The engineer mentioned it's estimated to complete by within 1.5 years, 18 months period. That is how far they're giving to us. And I'm hopeful that by the end of the period, we will have finished and we will finish way before the time.
For JoyNews, Nana Senso-Mensah, Kumasi.
Now, there's a worrying trend as children as young as 9 years are now being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, the commonest type of diabetes, which accounts for 90% of cases reported in Ghana. Are you worried as a parent or a guardian about these figures and what to do? Get them active. That's the advice from head of the diabetes unit at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Yakoba Atiase.
Well, we have the type 1. The type 1 basically means that you have a disorder whereby your pancreas that produces insulin is destroyed, usually by antibodies in your system. Okay. Then we have type 2. Type 2 largely is lifestyle. So we think that our lifestyle is feeding the diabetes epidemic. That is, it's not only in Ghana, it's global. Sure. We are not eating well, we are not exercising, we are not doing the things we ought to do. And so it's a lifestyle disease, and we think our lifestyle is changing, and it is affecting, the incidence.
And children are also getting involved.
Children are being affected because children don't play anymore. Children want to sit behind a TV and play football. Is that how to play football? I remember when we were kids, we used to go out and play hard. You sweat, and a child must be made to be active. You cannot allow your child to sit behind a TV all day and expect that that child will be healthy. It's not healthy for the brain, it's not healthy for the body. And so children must be made to be active. We must watch what we feed our children with. And these days you go to schools and it's like the normal looking child looks almost cachectic. You think that that child is rather malnourished because every other child is plump and obese. That's not right. So because our children are being exposed to inactivity and not so good foods, they are getting type 2 diabetes, which was in the past referred to as adult onset diabetes. Now children are getting it, and we have several children with type 2 diabetes. So we must encourage our children to be active. Children, physical education or activities, schools must have activity times for children to run around and to play to prevent type 2 diabetes. And when they come home, we should make them ride bicycles. If they can't, the pillows and the rounders and the things that we used to do in the past, they should burn what they eat. If you don't burn what you eat, you store it as excess body fat or excess body weight, and then eventually that will predispose you to type 2 diabetes.
Okay. Doc, any other thing you want to add? But let me also find out from you. Are you able to give me the statistics as to the deaths we are seeing with diabetes-related deaths or something?
I can't give you exact figures. What we do know is that most of the deaths in the past, people used to die mainly of communicable diseases, so infections, TB, malaria, and all that. Currently, cardiovascular disease or non-communicable diseases are the #1 cause of death globally. And we see it even in Kolebu and other hospitals. Now people are not dying from the malarias and the infections anymore. They are dying from heart attacks, they are dying from strokes, they are dying from diabetes complications, because that is what is happening, that is what is on the ground. So I can't give you exact numbers, but we know for sure that diabetes is contributing, and diabetes is the #1 contributor to the cardiovascular disease burden in the world. So diabetes is really a problem.
Ghana is no exception.
No, we are no exception. The unfortunate thing is that we are still dealing, in the developing world, we are still dealing with the communicable diseases. TB is still there, malaria is still there, and now we are adding the non-communicable disease, which is really sad. We call it the double burden of disease. And so we have, most countries will deal with one when they finish the communicable, or in the past, that's what happened.
Away from that story, Minister of Communications Ursula Osu-Ekufo has assured subscribers to the various telecommunication companies in the country of refund from their service providers following the directive stopping them from making further deductions for airtime and data purchases. Addressing the Meet the Press series this morning, Mrs. Osu-Ekufo said all customers would get their data and airtime credits by close of the month. The Communications Ministry is meanwhile pushing for a taxation on mobile money profits made in Ghana by the telecommunications companies. According to the sector minister, Ursula Owusu-Ekufo, network operators in the country earn 71 million cedis monthly in untaxed revenue.
It's us 1.4 million a month for both agencies on that sector. And so over the lifetime of the 5-year contract, it will result in a saving of $66 million to the state. It also monitors real-time transactions, 2.5 billion every day within the telecoms sector. And so it receives information about the transmission of 2.5 billion transactions in the telecom sector, i.e. calls, SMS, mobile money transactions. And it also monitors mobile money transactions as an added component. The fraud management component, which has enabled us to, they've set up a fraud management system known as Helicop, and it originates 150,000 international calls into Ghana every month to detect fraudulent SIM cards being used to generate those calls. And so this is specifically set up to combat SIM boxing, which costs the state an enormous, not just the state, but telecom operators as well, an enormous amount of money every month. Since that was the first component which went live in 2018 on the common platform, and from inception to date, it's made tax savings of over $205.6 million, which would have lost to the state if those SIMs hadn't been activated. And so, projecting over the life of the contract, it's expected to deliver tax savings of approximately 795.9 million cedis over the 5-year period. And this has been made possible through the state-of-the-art fraud management system that has been set up. On revenue assurance, the common platform provides the following information to the GRA. Revenue to the government from top-ups, measurement of top-ups per operator at the common platform, and actual consumption by the operators measured by the common platform. With the Ghana Revenue Authority is now able to verify the actual revenue streams of the mobile network operators, plug revenue leakages, and more accurately predict revenue trends in the sector for planning and policy formation. Prior to the establishment of the common platform.
To other issues now, and the minority in Parliament has issued a 3-day ultimatum to government to quickly release the over 40 ambulances parked at the forecourt of Parliament. The minority argues that many Ghanaians on a daily basis are losing their lives, whilst the medically equipped vehicles are not in use. Here's Ranking Member on the Health Committee, Kwabena Mintah-Kando.
Have consistently refused to put the health sector at the front burner or to prioritize the health sector. We are all well aware that people have been dying almost every day for lack of ambulances in the system. And as you can all see behind us, we have seen ambulances parked here for months. And you know the purpose for ambulance. The purposes are for emergency purposes. So if you buy ambulance and you park the ambulances without serving its purpose, how will the country benefit from the ambulances? And I've heard from the minister in charge of special initiative, and she says that they are going to do the distribution in 2020. From now, and in fact, from the time these ambulances were parked here till 2020, do you know the number of people who would die because they could not get access to ambulances? And I don't know whether they don't understand for emergency purpose, or I do not understand for emergency purpose. So as a matter of urgency, we are calling on the president to immediately distribute the ambulances that are available so that they could serve their purpose.
Now, Director of Communications for the governing MPP, Yahuabing Asamoah, says some trackers will have to be installed first before use. To Parliament now, the Speaker of Parliament, Reverend Professor Aaron Michael, has blocked a question from the MP for Myon, Abdulaziz, seeking to compel Youth and Sports Minister Isaac Esiama to answer parliamentary questions on when the full report on the Australia Commonwealth Games visa racketeering scandal will be made public. The Sports Minister Isaac Esiama, who appeared before the House, revealed that the matter has been referred to National Security for further investigation. But this infuriated the Myon MP, who is not satisfied with the answer, and appealed to the Speaker to compel the Minister to provide details since the matter is not before a law court. Let's get more details on this matter from Parker Wilson. Kwesi Parker Wilson is our man in Parliament. Parker, and before we go to the Myon MP's statement, I understand that you have been engaging Yahuabing Asamoah, Communications Director for the MPP.
Yes, Daniel. Now, before I engage them, the ranking member on the Health Committee, Kwabena Akando, had already indicated that there are about 46 ambulances parked here at the forecourt of Parliament, which is not being used. And these ambulances, according to government, was procured to improve health service delivery. And according to the ranking member, what's happening is that since the ambulances are not being used, many Ghanaians are losing their lives on a daily basis because of lack of ambulances. So it is important that government would quickly deploy the ambulances to the various constituencies to assist with healthcare delivery. And that they have issued only 3 days ultimatum to the government to do that. Failure to do that, they will summon the health minister or the special development initiative minister to the house to come and answer why they are wasting the taxpayers' money. So quickly, the Yabobina Sama, who is also the member of parliament for Adenta, intervened and mentioned that the ambulances are procured, they are there, they are waiting for the rest to come. And even before they use the ambulances, what they're going to do is that they're going to install trackers so they can monitor activities of the ambulances before use. Until then, they are going to keep it at Parliament here, at the forecourt of Parliament, wait till 2020 before they deploy them. But the ranking member insisted that the 2020 deployment is only for fanfare and electoral vote, because when they do that, probably the MPP is thinking that it will show up their vote. But he is saying he's not going to do that. They should rather deploy the ambulances now to save lives.
If I may, Parker, did Yawabia Samwa, the communications director for the NPP, say specifically that these trackers can only be installed by 2020?
Yeah, he said that they will install it in 2020 and deploy them.
Okay. Let's go to the second issue of Abdulaziz, the Myong MP's question to the sports minister. What was happening on the floor of Parliament at the time?
Okay, so then the MP wanted to know when the sports minister will make public the report on the visa racketeering. The minister who appeared before the House indicated that the matter is before national security. The MP said that the minister has failed to provide the House with the details. He's supposed to brief the House when they are going to make it public. And since the matter is not before a law court, the minister should brief the House. Right. He appealed to the Speaker that the Speaker should help, but the Speaker said since it is not, the minister doesn't have any information to that effect and it's a national security, he should redirect the question to the national security minister so that he can appear before the House and answer the question on what is happening to that particular report.
Thank you very much, Parker Wilson, for joining us with these details. He's our man in Parliament, briefing us on two key issues we have been discussing this morning. Away from that, local governance expert and leading member of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, Professor Kwamina Ahoy, says the fact that political parties are already clandestinely involved in district-level elections does not justify the referendum to make their participation official. Speaking on the Super Morning Show, the professor said the institutions should rather be strengthened to ensure the illegality does not continue. Campaigners for a yes vote in the December 17 referendum, which would allow political parties to field candidates in district-level elections, say the parties have already taken over the process and making it legal would allow for better regulations. These proponents include former EC Chairman Dr. Kojo Afarijan. Prof. Ahoy, however, disagrees.
Political parties should not participate. They are participating. There are provisions in the Constitution for sanctions for political parties who breach this provision and also for candidates who breach this provision. As law-abiding citizens, what we should do is to report the political parties who are doing it and the candidates who are doing it for the appropriate sanctions to be applied. And that's why I gave you the example of the stealing thing and you didn't seem to appreciate it. There's a law against stealing. People steal every day. Does that mean that we should repeal the law against stealing? No. So if we are saying that with partisanship at the local level, we are playing the ostrich, then we are playing the ostrich. We should allow people to steal. Because even though there's a law against stealing, people continue to steal.
Let me take this other text. Please let Prof. Ahoy know the following. The government has a roadmap that has addressed all his concerns and that the first time to apply the referendum, if it goes through, is 2023. If it is not 2023, pardon me, but 2021, when the first MMDCEs are to be elected, because the tenure for the current MMDCEs. So the fact that there's a roadmap has been...
This is the confusion that the government is deliberately introducing. And their supporters, they deliberately confuse the issue of electing DCEs with making the district assembly system partisan.
In a related story, government is accusing some of the groups who are campaigning against the yes vote in the upcoming referendum of pursuing parochial interest. There's controversy over the amendment of Clause 3 of Article 55 of the 1992 Constitution to allow for partisan participation in local government elections. Some civil society groups and non-governmental organizations are against the process on grounds of divisiveness in favor of partisan politics. Majority Chief Whip Kwesi Amia-Treme, however, suggests opponents are only seeking to maintain foreign sponsorship for sensitization when local elections remain non-partisan.
Red, blue and white dominate colors of posters of assembly member aspirants in the Ashanti region. Though less visible, another combination, red, black and green, go for some aspirants. No specific reasons are given for choice of colors, but does it strike any chord? Perhaps yes, because the two color combinations are linked respectively to the governing NPP and opposition NDC, the two dominant political forces in the country. Ali Yaya is a past assembly member for Kobreso electoral area in Ofenso North District. The NDC member attempts to explain reasons for the colors.
Because as we are all aware, most Ghanaians are aligned to either NDC or NPP. So if the area, the people there are NDC, and you choose the NDC colors, people may vote based on your political affiliation, and at the end of the day, you may benefit from it.
Though the Constitution prohibits involvement of partisan participation in the local government elections, the exact manifests in various forms. Esther Kakari Asamoah contested and lost in the Kentinkono electoral area in the last local government election. She blames her fate on people she describes as detractors who tagged her NDC just to cause her defeat.
I have held a position as a woman organizer for a political party, which is NPP. I cannot hide that fact. Everyone knows it. And so I don't believe in that tagging. I don't do much to counter it. But then, in some way, I talk to people who are naive and who are not into politics that even in a district assembly, we don't do politics.
Government ahead of December 17 has intensified campaign for a yes vote to amend the entrenched clause. Others, mostly NGOs, continue to campaign against the proposition, citing division among the people and corruption as reasons. Here is head of local government service, Nana Ato Afe's view on the concerns of no-vote campaigners.
If this country is divided. Where is the division? When you go to assemblies, NDC, MPP people are there. Are they divided? Is it divided? When you go to parliament, MPP and NDC people are there. Are they divided? I don't think it's going to divide this nation. Rather, it will strengthen democracy at the local level.
Majority Chief Whip in Parliament, Kwesi Amia-Treme, is on campaign for government's proposal. He believes most of the campaigners against the proposal are doing so for their own interest.
It's not every NGO or civil society or any individual. But I say some of them, because the current system, we say, is non-partisan, they can go to funding agencies, organizations that have funds to give, and say that we are going to mount education for these people in this area or that area or this section of people, either women or people with disabilities or men or thereabout. And some of those people think that their source of funding will be in danger, imperiled, with the participation of political parties. Because some of those funding agencies will not give you money to go and train political parties. You hold a district assembly election, and we say it is non-partisan, and how many people turn out to vote? We have recorded under 20 before. The highest we have ever had is 43%. So you ask yourselves, if political parties were involved, you'll be able to mobilize majority of the voters to go and vote.
In spite of the heightened campaign, it is unclear voter turnout of 40% and the 70% endorsement will be achieved.
Now, economist Professor Godfred Alufa Bokpin says the 2020 budget presented by the Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta reflects reality. Speaking on PM Express Wednesday evening with Demons Mentor, Professor Bokpin believes though Ghana is not out of the woods yet, some progress has been made.
I think that we are not out of the woods yet as a country, because largely we have made some progress. I mean, if you look at the statistics, but of course, if you look at overall GDP, it looks quite improved. But of course, when you look at the decomposition, we see mixed results in terms of some of the subsectors. And that is also a fact in terms of water, sewage, electricity, and all of that. So we see some of those mixed performance from the sub-categorization. But overall, as a country, we've made some progress. The question is, could we have done better? And I think we could have done better. When you look at the way the budget has been positioned, especially for 2020, you can see clearly it has embraced the 2020 election. And therefore, the benchmark for comparison is essentially the previous government. And because that benchmark looks particularly weak, when you compare what we are doing now to that, it portrays that we have done very, very well. But it's simply because that benchmark was particularly weak. So if we had to compare ourselves to the Mahama administration, it may suggest that we have done extraordinarily well and we are likely to start pumping champagne. But I think that we should have a better benchmark to do so, because Ghana, despite the progress that we have made, we are growing far below our potential. We have a negative output, a gap that we have to be able to close to the benefit of Ghanaians. We have seen some level of progress, especially in terms of the macro level variables, because it's no longer the talk in town, because inflation is stable, exchange rate is stable, interest rate is heading downwards, and all of that. So once you see all of that, the human tendency is to look beyond that and then look at how these things are reflecting in the pocket of Ghanaians. Apart from the tax revisions, and some, of course, will result in savings in the pocket of ordinary Ghanaians. It may not be that much, but if you look at it within the overall context of government financial management, it may seem a lot to government because we don't have physical space to do a lot of things. And when you look at from where the opposition is coming from, I think I also agree to some extent, because if you look at the way the non-oil real sector is responding, it's not doing quite well. And the reason also is because government is not spending appropriately when it comes to capital spending, infrastructure. And that.
Meanwhile, a section of the public has been given their assessment of the government and the 2020 budget presented by the Finance Minister.
The aspect that were not much favorable was too much politicking, and it's too much reference to 2016 as a basis. We have moved on. There's been so much activity in between 2016 and now. And so you can't go back and be using those same assessments as a basis of good performance in 2019. For me, there was no innovation, but a reference to a taxes which was referred to as nuisance taxes. Indeed, these taxes were, established with the sunset clauses. They were due to lapse some years back. If you have continued it and have increased the rate, you don't go back and say, oh, we've cancelled nuisance taxes and we've done this and we've done that. No. For me, that was a no-no.
The Finance Minister presented the budget. As usual, for me, I don't see any innovative initiative in the budget. It has been the old rhetoric in the year on, and government come, government gone. You see. So when we come to the specific, all Ghanaians were talking about how the government will raise revenue. And throughout the budget, I didn't see any initiative that will be a paradigm shift in how we can mobilize our revenue, this dwindling revenue that we are having.
We Ghanaians, you don't understand about anything about the budget. You have to stop reading the budget for us. Both NDC, MPP, CPP, PNC, we don't need anybody. The person we need the person who is faithful to God to come and be a presence for Ghana.